What if I told you that Meghan Markle, yes, that Meghan Markle, sent an email so quietly desperate, so brazenly strategic, that Kris Jenner allegedly didn't even dignify it with a response? What if I told you that email was deleted, mocked, and eventually leaked across A-list circles as a cautionary tale in how not to climb back into Hollywood's elite? Because that's exactly what this story is about. But before we continue, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for updates. And once you understand the details, once we unpack the motives, the whispers, and the not-so-subtle digs, you'll see why this one email could be the final nail in the coffin of Meghan's tattered Hollywood fairy tale. Let's start at the scene of the crime. It's early November. The invites have gone out for L'Oréal Paris's 20th Anniversary Women of Worth Gala, one of the most fiercely guarded, high-profile celebrations of female empowerment in the entertainment world. The guest list is stacked. Oscar winners, humanitarians, billionaires, moguls. The room is A-list only, no exceptions. And right there at the top of the influence pyramid, Kris Jenner, the matriarch, the architect, the gatekeeper. Now picture this. In the days leading up to the gala, Kris's team receives an unexpected email. A formal inquiry. Polite, polished, professional, but thinly veiled underneath the courtesy. A plea. From none other than Meghan Markle. Not to headline. Not to speak, but to accompany Kris. To attend as her guest. That's right. The Duchess of Sussex, former senior royal, self-branded humanitarian, and would-be media mogul, apparently wanted to attach herself to Kris Jenner's aura for just one night. Why? To be seen. To be photographed. To stay relevant. And what did Kris Jenner allegedly do when she received that email? She trashed it. Flat out deleted it. Didn't respond. Didn't forward it. Just hit delete. That alone would have been brutal. But the story didn't end there. Because someone, an insider, a mole, a whisperer, leaked that email request. Not the actual text, but the existence of it. The intention. The desperation. And from there, the fallout spread like wildfire. It sparked whispers in celebrity group chats, quiet snubs on red carpets, coordinated unfollowings on Instagram, even a whispered quote from Kim Kardashian herself, one that we'll get to later, that many now believe sealed Meghan's fate in A-list circles for good. So, how did we get here? How did Meghan Markle go from the most talked-about woman on the planet to allegedly begging for a +1 at an event she once would have dominated? Why did she choose Kris Jenner of all people? And perhaps most importantly, what does this story really tell us about power, rejection, and the brutal hierarchy of modern celebrity? Because make no mistake, this isn't just about one email. This is about a crumbling brand, a closed door, a cultural shift. This is about what happens when the girl who once had everything finds out the world has moved on without her. Let's rewind. The L'Oréal Women of Worth Gala has always been about more than just makeup. It's a celebration of women who use their platform for something bigger than beauty, activism, innovation, transformation. Over the past 2 decades, it's become the place for Hollywood power women to signal virtue, connection, and dominance. And Kris Jenner? She's not just a guest. She's the strategic center of gravity at events like this. Brands orbit her. Media follows her. Everyone wants her blessing. So imagine her surprise, if not mild amusement, when her assistant brings her a printed email with Meghan Markle's name on it. Sources say it wasn't even sent directly by Meghan, but from her PR rep. And the language? Soft power. We'd love to explore a collaborative presence. Strategic flattery. There's such powerful synergy between Meghan and Kris's work empowering women. And the final ask, would Kris consider inviting Meghan as her guest to attend this year's Women of Worth Gala? Now pause here. Why would Meghan Markle, someone who famously walked away from the royal family and claimed she didn't need institutions, turn around and seek coattail access to someone else's moment? Desperation? Maybe. Strategy? Definitely. Because if there's one thing Kris Jenner represents, it's entry. She opens doors. She elevates. She protects her own. But she also gatekeeps. And to Kris, Meghan wasn't just an outsider. She was baggage, tabloid drama, PR landmines. A woman with a fractured reputation who might suck all the oxygen out of a room meant to celebrate others. So Kris made a choice. A silent one. No reply. No maybe. No polite decline. Just delete. But here's the twist. the rejection might have stayed quiet. If not for what happened next. According to multiple sources close to Hollywood PR firms, someone in Kris's orbit leaked word of Meghan's email. Not the email itself, but its existence. The audacity of it. The tone. The vibe. And that's when the story mutated. Suddenly, it wasn't just a polite no. It was Kris Jenner rejecting Meghan Markle. And in Hollywood, that sends a message. The fallout was instant. PR firms started whispering that Meghan was trying to latch on. Publicists warned clients to be careful. She's shopping for visibility. Celebs in shared circles began distancing themselves again. One insider described it like this. It was like she became radioactive overnight. Because when Kris Jenner says no, she doesn't just shut a door. She tells the industry you should too. The most ironic part? L'Oreal's Women of Worth campaign should have been perfect for Meghan. After all, this is a woman who's built her entire public image on female empowerment. On giving women a voice. On visibility. Worth. But when actual empowered women gathered to celebrate, she wasn't there. And when people asked why, that's when whispers about the email started to bubble. Quietly. Insidiously. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. The leak didn't just humiliate Meghan privately. It shifted the narrative, publicly, ruthlessly, and fast. Because the moment the story made its way through Hollywood's invisible channels. Celebrity group chats, PR handlers, event planners. One thing became clear. Meghan Markle was no longer being treated as a power player. She was now being treated like a liability. And in Hollywood, perception is everything. Let's be real for a second. Meghan has spent years crafting an image of independence, power, and regal mystique. The Oprah interview, the Spotify and Netflix deals, the Archetypes podcast, the Netflix docuseries that redefined celebrity coupledom, for better or worse. But that was then. Now, she's being accused of begging for relevance at someone else's event. And not just anyone's event. Kris Jenner's event. You have to understand, Kris didn't just say no. She allegedly made sure that no one else said yes either. It wasn't petty. It was calculated. Because Kris plays the long game. She always has. She understands that her brand, and her family's billion-dollar empire, is built on control. Of narratives. Of relationships. Of appearances. Letting Meghan latch on, even for one photo, would have sent the wrong signal. And if you think that sounds harsh, you're right. It is. But that's the game. And Meghan? She played her hand. And lost. Sources close to event organizers revealed that Meghan's team even floated the idea of aligning with the event's mission in a broader campaign. Maybe co-hosting a follow-up panel. Maybe amplifying the honorees through her platform. Maybe offering visibility through her brand. But L'Oreal didn't bite. Neither did the publicists. Neither did Kris. And from there, the silence became louder than any headline. Think about this. For someone as image-conscious as Meghan, who built her post-royal career on meaningful appearances and symbolic moments, this particular gala could have been everything. A comeback. A reclamation. A reframe. Instead, she was ghosted. And let's be clear, this wasn't just a random email gone unanswered. It was a message to the entire industry. That the door was closed. Permanently. And here's where it gets darker. Because once word of that snub got out, it didn't stop with Kris. The Kardashian-Jenner circle began closing in too. People Meghan once posed with at galas now reportedly ignore her DMs. Designers who once sent her dresses now pass. PR reps who used to name-drop her as a client now change the subject. And let's not forget, Hollywood is a town that runs on whispers. And those whispers have turned into full-on avoidance. But why does this matter now? Why is this moment such a pivotal turning point? Because this gala represented something more than glamour or brand visibility. It was the 20th anniversary of a campaign rooted in worthiness. And whether Meghan knew it or not, whether she saw this as a chance to reclaim her narrative or just ride someone else's, it became a brutal metaphor. When the Women of Worth gathered, Meghan wasn't there. Not because she didn't want to be, but because she wasn't invited. Think about the irony. A woman who left the British monarchy claiming she wanted freedom. Who told the world she was reclaiming her voice, who framed her departure as a revolution for women of color, for single mothers, for survivors, for everyone unheard. And yet, when it was time for those voices to be honored, the doors were locked, and the people holding the keys, women like Kris Jenner, weren't interested in symbolic reunions or Instagram-worthy alliances. They wanted control and peace and relevance untainted by scandal. So, what's next for Meghan? Because here's the hard truth. Once you're seen as desperate in Hollywood, it's nearly impossible to walk that back. You can't unsend an email. You can't unhear the gossip. And you definitely can't reclaim control after Kris Jenner puts you on silent mode. But maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what Meghan needed. Maybe this humiliation wasn't just rejection, it was redirection. Maybe Meghan saw the gala not as her last resort, but her last test. Because according to one source close to her team, the rejection sparked more than sadness. It sparked strategy, plans, pivots, revenge rebrands. Allegedly, Meghan has been quietly assembling a new inner circle. Not influencers, not royal sympathizers, but disruptors, media tacticians, people who specialize in reinvention. And if that's true, if Meghan Markle really is planning a comeback, then Kris Jenner's deletion of that email may have done something very dangerous. It may have woken her up, because when Meghan feels cornered, she doesn't retreat. She plots. And if there's one thing she's proven time and again, it's that she knows how to flip a narrative. So as the L'Oreal Gala came and went, flashes flickering, gowns swirling, Kris sipping champagne with a satisfied smile, somewhere Meghan watched. Not from a red carpet, not from a VIP suite, but from the shadows. Watching, waiting, planning. And just when the world thought she was finally gone for good, she hit send on something even more shocking than that first email. But what was it? And who received it? You'll want to hear this next part. What kind of email can make an entire industry gasp? Not a death threat, not a legal notice, not a viral scandal, but an invitation request sent from the Duchess of Sussex's camp to the Queen of reality TV. It wasn't dramatic on the surface. It didn't have all caps or threats or tabloid bait in the subject line. But when that email landed in Kris Jenner's inbox, it landed like a bomb. It wasn't supposed to. Not publicly. Not visibly. But when you're Meghan Markle, nothing you do stays invisible for long. And this email? It didn't stay buried. Let's set the scene properly. Kris Jenner's office. Neutral tones, sculptural florals, assistants buzzing around on MacBooks, her inner circle fine-tuning seating charts, and sponsorship slides for the L'Oreal Women of Worth 20th Anniversary Gala. A gala designed to amplify women who've made real impact. A night about strength, beauty, power, and exclusivity. The guest list was already airtight. No surprises. No stunts. No unapproved plus ones. And then it came in. The email. Not from Meghan directly. Of course not. That's not how these things are done. It was sent by her publicist, or her agent, or her brand liaison, depending on who you ask. But the point is, the message was unmistakable. Meghan Markle wanted to attend the L'Oreal Gala, not as a speaker, not as an honoree, but as the guest of Kris Jenner. It was cloaked in complimentary language. Empowered women, shared values, platform amplification. But at its core, it was a request. A request for a +1 slot. A seat at the table. A place on the step-in repeat carpet. The kind of thing that, for almost any other celebrity, would have been routine. But not this time. Because this wasn't just any +1 request. It was from her. And Kris Jenner? She read it once. Then allegedly laughed. Out loud. And deleted it. No reply. No forward. No reply all. Just delete. Why? Why did this one email set off such a visceral, dismissive reaction? Let's rewind again. Because this isn't just about a missed gala. It's about a pattern. It's about Hollywood watching Meghan go from demanded to declined. And Kris? She saw it coming long before the rest of us. Let's be brutally honest. Meghan's power, in recent years, has been more bark than bite. She's still a headline machine. Still paparazzi catnip. Still trending. But deals have died. Projects have flopped. Bridges have burned. Spotify dropped her. Netflix distanced itself. Dior never confirmed that rumored ambassadorship. Beyoncé never posted that picture. And when the elites start closing ranks, the gatekeepers notice. And there's no greater gatekeeper in Hollywood than Kris Jenner. So when Meghan's team slid into her inbox with synergy and female empowerment and shared audiences, Kris read between the lines. She saw it for what it was. A desperation play. An attempt to hijack visibility. To be photographed beside power. To co-opt relevance. And for Kris, that was a hard no. But here's where it gets spicy. Because Kris could have just deleted the email and moved on. But according to two insiders, she didn't just delete it. She showed it to someone else. Not just someone. Multiple someones. A stylist. A glam squad member. A guest list wrangler. And within hours, the story was circulating. She wants to come as Kris's +1. One stylist reportedly texted in a group chat with 4 other Hollywood insiders. LOL. Suddenly, people at L'Oreal knew. So did someone at E! News. And a high-powered agent in New York. The story wasn't public, but it was spreading. And like all things in Tinseltown, it didn't need publication to go viral. Because the moment it hit the elite circles, it became a meme. A cautionary tale. The Duchess of Sussex, once the most overexposed woman on the planet, was now allegedly begging for red carpet access. Do you feel that? That twist in your stomach? That uncomfortable collision between reputation and reality? This wasn't just an email. It was an earthquake. And the aftershocks started immediately. 1 week before the gala, a senior editor at a legacy fashion magazine reportedly pulled Meghan's name from a guest list draft. 2 days later, a luxury designer respectfully declined to send over an ensemble to Meghan's stylist. And Kris? She made sure her seating arrangement was fortified, her guest list double-checked, her media agreements bulletproof. Because Kris Jenner knows better than anyone. If Meghan shows up uninvited, you better have receipts. But that wasn't even the worst part. Because someone else, someone outside Kris's inner circle, got their hands on the story and started fanning the flames. An anonymous but verified account posted a cryptic tweet the night before the gala. The woman who once said she doesn't need Hollywood just tried to sneak into the biggest beauty event of the year. Denied. No names. But no mystery either. The quote was unmistakably about Meghan. The replies were brutal. Memes. Mockery. Conflicted defenders asking if it was true. And then, hours before the gala, a bold claim from a gossip columnist. Word is, Kris Jenner received a request from the Duchess's PR team and politely trashed it. #Women of Worth Gala. Still no confirmation. But everyone knew. And for Meghan? Silence. No tweet. No appearance. No denial. Because what could she say? If she denied it, it would invite more digging. If she confirmed it, it would confirm the humiliation. So she did the only thing left to do. Nothing. Meanwhile, inside the gala, Kris was radiant. L'Oreal executives were thrilled. The guests, Viola Davis, Camila Cabello, Eva Longoria, glowed under the spotlight. And Meghan? Allegedly watched it unfold from afar. Some say she was at home in Montecito. Others say she was prepping for an unrelated shoot. But everyone agrees, she wasn't there. She wasn't anywhere. And in Hollywood, absence speaks volumes. Because that email? It wasn't just a request. It was a red flag. And Kris Jenner saw it from a mile away. But the most brutal part? Wasn't the rejection. It was that someone in Kris's camp made sure Meghan knew she'd been laughed at. Not ignored. Not forgotten. Laughed at. Because in the world Meghan left behind, Buckingham Palace, courtiers, tradition, rejection is cold, silent, formal. But in Hollywood, rejection echoes. It circles back. It sticks. It becomes your brand. And once people believe you're trying to ride coattails, that's it. You're no longer the main character. You're the plot twist. You're the email that got deleted, then forwarded, then laughed about. You're the punchline in a WhatsApp thread between people who used to call you trailblazing. And the only question left is, what happens when the whole industry stops replying? What happens when even your allies start to treat you like spam? And most importantly, what happens when Kris Jenner turns you down and the Kardashians close ranks? Because if you think this email was the last time Meghan would face a locked door, you haven't seen what happened inside the gala yet. Because behind those golden walls, someone made sure Meghan Markle's name would never be added to the list again. But who was it? And what did they say? What came next would shock even Kris. What does it take to sit beside Kris Jenner at a Hollywood gala? It's not about fame. Not really. It's not even about money. That might get you a seat in the room. But never next to her. Because when you're Kris Jenner, your image is your empire. Your guest list isn't about friendship. It's a weapon. A chessboard. Every handshake, every photo, every seating arrangement is meticulously calculated. So when Meghan Markle's name allegedly popped up as a request to attend L'Oreal's Women of Worth Gala, specifically as Kris's guest, it wasn't just a bold move. It was an insult to the very strategy that built the Kardashian-Jenner dynasty. Let's talk about how ruthless Kris Jenner truly is. People like to paint her as the lovable momager. Funny, fierce, unapologetic. But that's just the surface. Beneath it, there's a tactician who runs her empire like a military operation. And make no mistake, Kris Jenner's greatest power isn't her daughters. It's access. She controls access to red carpets, brands, media outlets, and yes, people. Let's break it down. If you want to be seen on the arm of Kris Jenner at a major event, you need to pass her silent vetting process. One misstep, one whiff of controversy she doesn't control, and you're off the list. Forever. There's a reason you haven't seen certain people in the Kardashians' orbit in years. Blac Chyna? Gone. Jordan Woods? Exiled, until recently. Larsa Pippen? Faded. Even Caitlyn Jenner, relegated to the sidelines when her narrative no longer aligned with Kris's family brand. So when Meghan Markle's camp allegedly sent that email, what did Kris see? A woman with baggage. Let's be blunt. Yes, Meghan is famous. Yes, she's powerful in her own way. But she's also unpredictable, polarizing, known to shift narratives in real time and flip alliances overnight. Kris doesn't deal in chaos she doesn't control. She doesn't share her spotlight with someone who might hijack the moment. And Meghan? That's exactly what she's become in Hollywood. You want to know Kris's rules? Here they are. Rule number 1. Never let someone else's narrative overshadow yours. Meghan has a way of dominating headlines, intentionally or not. At Oprah's house, she told a story that became global cannon fodder. On Netflix, she and Harry turned private family grievances into a primetime binge. Kris couldn't risk the night becoming about Meghan's presence instead of the honoree's purpose. Rule number 2. Keep your allies clean and your enemies distant. Meghan, whether fair or not, has become a reputational risk in elite Hollywood circles. Not because she's toxic, necessarily, but because she's unpredictable. And unpredictability? That's death in PR. Rule number 3. No stunts. No freeloaders. No coattail climbers. You want to walk a red carpet with Kris Jenner? You better bring something to the table. An empire. A campaign. A cross-promotion. Not a sob story. And that's what Kris reportedly saw in Meghan's email. A soft, masked plea to be included in the spotlight. No pitch. No strategy. No synergy. Just optics. Just, let me be seen next to you. And Kris doesn't do charity when it comes to brand alignment. Because here's the secret to Kris Jenner's red carpet rules. She treats her presence like a currency. That means she doesn't hand it out. She trades it. You want to be in a photo with her? That better be worth something. You want to sit beside her at the gala? That better elevate her. But Meghan? Kris saw no upside. Only risk. Only headlines she couldn't control. And there's one thing Kris Jenner never allows. Loss of control. Want an example? In 2019, a then-rising socialite managed to sneak her way into a charity event Kris was attending. The woman positioned herself beside Kris for a photo and posted it on Instagram with a caption about their joint philanthropic mission. Kris never acknowledged her. Her team reportedly sent the photo to be scrubbed from outlets. And that woman never appeared beside a Kardashian again. That's how tightly Kris controls her image. Which brings us back to Meghan. There was no world, none, in which Kris was going to let Meghan use her as a stepping stone back into public adoration. Not now. Not with Meghan's track record of flipping public perception. Not with headlines still speculating about her broken Hollywood alliances. Not when the gala was meant to spotlight real women of worth. And no, this isn't to say Meghan isn't worthy. It's about how she's perceived. And in Kris's world, perception is reality. What's even more telling? Kris didn't just ignore the email. She let it circulate. It was her way of sending a message. One that was quiet, deniable, but unmistakably powerful. Don't try this again. You see, Hollywood doesn't cancel you with press releases. It cancels you with silence. With doors that used to open, staying shut. With emails that never get replies. With stylists suddenly fully booked. With camera crews who ran out of space. With friends who are out of town. Kris knows this dance better than anyone. She choreographed it. So for Meghan, this wasn't just a rejection. It was a strategic takedown. And the real kicker? This wasn't the first time Kris said no. Rumor has it, Meghan's team reached out months earlier with a potential brand collab. one meant to align her new product line with the Kardashian machine. It was polite, careful, optimistic, and it was turned down. Softly, no hard feelings, just not the right time. But that was strike one. The L'Oreal email? Strike two. There won't be a third. Not with Kris. Because in her world, every name on the guest list means something. And Meghan's name? No longer means value, at least not to her. That's the cruel arithmetic of Hollywood. It's not about how famous you are. It's about what your presence costs. And Meghan's presence came with baggage, drama, and a history of narrative control. All things Kris avoids like a bad lighting angle. But the irony? Kris's rejection didn't destroy Meghan. It exposed the cracks already there. It showed the world that the gatekeepers weren't just tolerating Meghan anymore. They were actively closing the gates. And this wasn't just a door shutting. It was a vault slamming down. But here's the twist. While Meghan's email got deleted, laughed at, and whispered about, she wasn't the only one trying to hitch a ride to the gala. Because someone else, someone just as desperate, managed to get further than Meghan ever did. And the way that person got in will blow everything wide open. Because Kris might have rules. But even she didn't see this betrayal coming. How does a woman who once captivated the world go from commanding primetime specials and royal tours to allegedly begging for a +1 at someone else's gala? That's the question haunting every publicist in town, every image consultant, every executive who once saw Meghan Markle as the golden goose of post-royal branding. Because behind that polite email to Kris Jenner, masked in PR language and empowerment buzzwords, was a scream for visibility. And that scream? It echoed far beyond one gala. It was the latest, clearest signal of a woman grasping for relevance in a world that's quietly moved on. Let's rewind the clock. The Sussexes break free from the monarchy. Megxit. The most sensational royal exit since Edward VIII abdicated the throne. Oprah, Archewell, Malibu Estates, multi-million-dollar Netflix and Spotify deals. The couple was everywhere, speaking truth to power and rewriting what royalty could mean in a digital age. Meghan wasn't just reclaiming her voice. She was everywhere. Hollywood swooned. PR firms scrambled. Fashion houses lined up. Netflix opened the vault. And for a while, it worked. Meghan became the face of a new kind of celebrity. Royal but rebellious, polished but relatable, humanitarian but commercial. She was the anti-Kate, the anti-Kardashian, the woman who had everything, but didn't want to play by anyone else's rules. But here's the secret that no one wants to say out loud. Hollywood never truly embraced Meghan. It tolerated her, leveraged her, exploited her novelty. Because deep down, Meghan didn't belong to Hollywood. She belonged to headlines. And headlines don't last, especially when the projects start to flop. Let's start with Spotify. The Archetypes podcast launched with fanfare. Huge production, slick interviews, buzzwords galore. But behind the scenes, executives grew impatient. Scripts were late. Guests were difficult to secure. Some even alleged Meghan didn't do the heavy lifting. And when Spotify finally pulled the plug, they didn't sugarcoat it. Bill Simmons, a top Spotify exec, called Meghan and Harry F*******ing grifters on a live podcast. Let that sink in. A corporate executive, publicly insulting the Duchess of Sussex, and no one rushed to her defense. That moment, that was a turning point, because it showed that the industry was no longer afraid to turn on her. Next came Netflix. The docuseries dropped. It trended. It stirred debate. But it also raised eyebrows. Critics questioned its tone, its message, its purpose. It felt less like storytelling and more like score settling. And when Harry's Heart of Invictus quietly released months later, the silence was deafening. No promo push, no royal coverage, no viral moments. Netflix began to shift its strategy. Rumors swirled that Meghan's development deal was under review. A scripted animated series she pitched, Pearl, was canceled before it even began. Suddenly, the golden goose didn't look so golden. And Meghan? She felt it. That's when the rebrand attempts began. Step 1. A lifestyle brand, American Riviera Orchard. Launched via Instagram with moody photos of jam jars and flowers. No explanation. No clear product line. Just a vibe. Critics called it a poor man's goop. Insiders whispered it was a Hail Mary. Step 2. Influence by proximity. Meghan began making more appearances at safe, venues, friendlies like the Power of Women Gala, Prince Harry's charity events, and pseudo-public outings that guaranteed headlines without confrontation. But that wasn't enough. Because here's the problem. Meghan's fame depends on context. Without the royal family to push against, without Harry beside her, without a platform to speak from, she becomes static. So she needed an image revival, a new narrative, a comeback moment. And that's where Kris Jenner came in. Attaching herself to Kris, a woman who has mastered the comeback arc, made perfect sense. Kris turned Kim's sex tape scandal into a billion-dollar dynasty. She made Kendall the world's top-paid supermodel. She engineered Kylie into a cosmetics titan. And now, she was spearheading one of the most prestigious, buzzed-about events of the year, L'Oreal's 20th Anniversary Women of Worth Gala. Meghan saw an opportunity. And why not? She is a woman of worth. She has empowered others. She should belong in that room. But Hollywood doesn't work on should. It works on leverage. And by 2025, Meghan didn't have much left. No studio would risk a scripted show with her as lead. No brand would sign on without guaranteed ROI. No fashion house wanted the headlines that followed her like a storm cloud. Even her once loyal allies, Oprah, Serena Williams, Tyler Perry, had all taken a visible step back. Not dramatically, not cruelly, but enough to be noticed. And that's why Meghan allegedly sent that email. Not out of entitlement, out of necessity. Because when you've been at the top and the offers stop coming, you stop waiting, you start reaching. And Meghan reached for the most powerful woman in the room. But Kris Jenner doesn't pull people up. She filters them out. The gala would have been her comeback moment. One smiling photo beside Kris. One seated dinner with Viola Davis. One pan across the ballroom with Meghan framed in golden light. It could have reignited the machine. But the machine rejected her. So where does Meghan go from here? Because this wasn't just a door slammed shut. It was a warning flare. Visible from every mansion in Calabasas to every executive floor in Century City. And the message? Meghan's star is flickering. Even more chilling? Her name has become a test. Invite her, and you're choosing sides. Photograph her, and you risk headlines. Work with her, and your board might ask, is she worth the backlash? That's not fame. That's brand toxicity. And it's what Meghan's been trying to outrun since Megxit. But here's where things twist, because Meghan isn't giving up. Behind the scenes, there are whispers of new deals in development. Books, docuseries, lifestyle expansions, even a potential return to scripted acting under a different name for a different platform. Allegedly, she's also quietly been rebuilding her own version of the Kris Jenner system, a team of brand specialists, ghostwriters, media strategists, and celebrity connectors. The goal? Reinvention. Again, because if Meghan has one strength, it's this: she doesn't retreat. She reinvents. She recalibrates. She reemerges. And if Kris won't open the door, Meghan will build her own stage. But at what cost? Because every reinvention has its risks. Every pivot invites more scrutiny. And every time she reaches out and gets rejected, that scar gets deeper. So the next time you see Meghan on a red carpet, or in a high-production Instagram shoot, or an Apple TV Plus documentary, ask yourself, did she get there by force? Or was someone finally willing to let her in? Because what's unfolding behind the scenes isn't just a comeback arc. It's a collision of brand versus reputation, of strategy versus perception, of ambition versus access. And as for Kris Jenner, she's watching, quietly. And if Meghan makes the wrong move, the next email won't just be deleted. It'll be exposed. And the war will begin. The lights were blinding. The carpets were pristine. Security detail was airtight. Press credentials triple verified, and the scent of exclusivity hung in the air like designer perfume. It was the night everyone in Hollywood circled in red ink. The L'Oreal Paris Women of Worth 20th Anniversary Gala. Not just another award show. Not just another fashion parade. This was a statement. A reminder of who still mattered and who didn't. The vibe was celebratory on the surface. The kind of radiant warmth you only get when powerful women come together, wearing $10,000 gowns and million-dollar smiles, each one acutely aware that who they're seen with matters just as much as what they say. But underneath the champagne flutes and inspirational speeches was a silent tension. Not because of who was there, but because of who wasn't. Meghan Markle. And everyone knew it. Let's break down what happened that night. and why it turned a glamorous gala into a silent war zone. The gala took place at a historic venue in Los Angeles, one dripping in Art Deco elegance and A-list history. It was a red carpet event with a velvet rope that even money couldn't buy your way through. This wasn't about fame alone. This was about favor. And no one had more of it than Kris Jenner. Kris arrived early. She always does. She didn't walk in. She commanded. Paparazzi cameras clicked like gunfire, PR reps scrambled to make way, and her daughters' names were on the tongues of nearly every executive in the room, even though not a single Kardashian was officially on the list. That's how powerful she is. Standing next to her were women like Viola Davis, Camila Cabello, Andie MacDowell, Eva Longoria. Women who've stood the test of time, industry politics, and shifting cultural tides. And right there in the swirl of it all, Kris was smiling. Because she had already won. Because Meghan Markle wasn't on the carpet. And everyone in that room knew she had tried to be. Here's where things took a turn. As the honorees were being introduced one by one, each woman given a moment to bask in the applause and admiration, Kris allegedly leaned over to a L'Oreal exec and whispered something that made both of them chuckle. Minutes later, a visibly rattled junior producer was seen relaying something to security near the back entrance. What was it? No one saying directly, but rumors began flying within minutes. Meghan's team tried again. Yes, allegedly. Even after being snubbed by Kris via that now infamous email deletion, Meghan's camp had once more reached out, this time directly to L'Oreal's media team, offering to support the campaign digitally, to bring additional global visibility, to amplify the honorees through her platform. It wasn't a formal request to attend, but everyone saw it for what it was. Another attempt to be associated with the gala, even if just peripherally. And L'Oreal? They said no. Privately. Politely. But firmly. No statement. No quote. Just silence. But that silence echoed through the gala halls louder than any speech. And then came the real sting. During the event's live photo feed, a moment was captured that sent social media into a frenzy. Kris Jenner, flanked by her glam squad and a few A-list confidants, raised her glass during a private toast. The caption posted by a L'Oreal exec read, "To those who lift others up, and no one is saying no. Kissmark hashtag Women of Worth." Coincidence? Maybe. But in the echo chamber of Hollywood politics, nothing is ever accidental. By morning, gossip columns had already picked it up. Kris Jenner's toast. Was it a subtle jab at Meghan Markle? Blogs dissected it. TikTok speculated. Twitter erupted. And through it all, Meghan said nothing. Again. But her silence only fueled the fire. Because behind the scenes, her name had still been floating around the gala. A stylist at the event leaked that she overheard someone from the brand's PR team say, "It would have been chaos if she showed. You know how fast the night would have stopped being about the honorees." That was the fear. That Meghan wouldn't just attend, she'd absorb. She'd eclipse. She'd become the story. And in an event built to honor others, that was unacceptable. But here's where the war truly began. Because while Meghan stayed away physically, her allies didn't. Two influencers, one with a previous tie to Meghan's podcast, the other rumored to be a brand consultant for American Riviera Orchard, were spotted near the venue. Not inside, but close enough. One of them even posted an Instagram story with the caption, "Funny how some women only celebrate other women when it's convenient. Hashtag stay tuned." That wasn't vague. That was a shot across the bow. The battle lines had been drawn. Kris had the institutional power, the red carpet, the guest list. Meghan had the outsiders, the loyalists, the digital army that still believed in her brand. This wasn't about L'Oreal anymore. It was about who owns the narrative in 2025. Traditional media or independent influence. Old school Hollywood or post-royal disruption. And the war escalated again when, 24 hours after the gala, one of Meghan's unofficial allies posted a carousel of archival photos showing Meghan at various women's empowerment events, with the caption, "Worthy women don't wait to be invited. They build the stage." Over 200,000 likes, tens of thousands of shares, and a ripple effect that made one thing clear. Meghan might have been shut out of that room, but she still had reach. So why was she trying to get into a space that had already rejected her? Why didn't she lean into the outsider role fully? Because, and here's the uncomfortable truth, Meghan doesn't just want attention. She wants acceptance, validation, redemption, and no gala, no hashtag, no jam jar soft launch can give her that. Not if Kris Jenner has anything to say about it. And she does. In fact, the final moment that truly lit the matchstick came not from Kris, but from her daughter, Kim Kardashian. Allegedly, during a private brunch the day after the gala, Kim was asked by a designer about Meghan's absence. Kim's response: according to a well-placed fashion PR insider, she smirked and said, "We don't do tag-alongs." Brutal, cold, devastating, and devastatingly effective. Because with that one sentence, Kim echoed the very reason her mother deleted Meghan's email in the first place. Meghan wasn't seen as an equal. She was seen as a +1 request. And the war had officially begun. One fought not with press releases, but with captions, seating charts, strategic silence, and very loud omissions. But Meghan isn't retreating. If anything, she's regrouping. Because her next move? It won't be polite. It won't be through a publicist. It won't be asking for access. It will be a declaration. And Kris Jenner may have fired the first shot, but she won't be the last one standing if Meghan gets her revenge. Because someone else, someone closer to Kris than she realizes, is about to switch sides. And when they do, the secrets won't stay behind the velvet rope anymore. It started with a screenshot, one blurry image, a cropped WhatsApp message, just a sentence, maybe two, but enough to start a digital avalanche through every stylist, PR rep, influencer, actress, and socialite in Greater Los Angeles. The message? She really thought she could just attach herself to Kris? Skull loudly crying face. No name. No context. But everyone knew who she was. By the time the L'Oréal Paris Women of Worth Gala had wrapped and the last flute of champagne had been set down, Meghan Markle wasn't just trending. She was being roasted in private. Because in 2025, the true Hollywood power brokers don't announce their alliances on red carpets anymore. They do it in encrypted chats, anonymous accounts, and in group threads with names like Tuesday Queens, iconic B** cheese only, and no press, just tea-hot beverage. And Meghan? She was the hot topic, not in admiration. In mockery. Let's peel back the curtain. There's a myth that Hollywood runs on official deals, contracts, NDAs, and press releases. But the truth? It runs on group chats. And Meghan's attempt to slide into Kris Jenner's spotlight, via that now infamous email, sparked the equivalent of an influencer wildfire behind the scenes. What exactly was said? Let's start with the Kardashian-adjacent circle. One insider claims that Khloe Kardashian's assistant forwarded a meme to a group called VIB Lounge the night of the gala. The meme was simple. Meghan photoshopped into the background of Kris's L'Oréal toast, with the caption, "Me manifesting this invite loudly crying face sparkles." The group's reaction? Laugh reacts. Skull emojis. A few girl stop messages. But one reply stood out. Honestly, the audacity. She doesn't even know how this works. That set the tone. And it didn't stop there. Group chat number 2. The power publicists. This was the one that did real damage. A group comprised of 8 top-tier publicists from agencies like CAA, WME, and UTA. The kind of women, and a few men, who make careers in Hollywood with 1 dinner reservation and 2 phone calls. According to a leak from one participant, the conversation got nasty. Kris should have framed the email and auctioned it at Sotheby's. If my client tried this, I'd be fired. There's reclaiming power, and then there's begging for table scraps. This was the latter. At least 2 members of the group forwarded the chat to clients. Clients who had previously expressed some interest in working with Meghan. The result? Silence. No calls back. No follow-ups. No brand alignments. One source even claimed a mid-tier fashion label paused a Meghan Markle capsule collection that had been in ideation stage since spring. All because of one group chat. Group chat number 3. The Empowerment Queens thread. This one stung. A collective of actresses, founders, and speakers, many of whom had appeared on panels with Meghan, shared stages with her at women's conferences, or been tagged in her social justice posts. On paper, allies. But on encrypted signal, they weren't impressed. Wasn't this gala about spotlighting women who do the work? She wants to appear next to that, not actually support it. Everything with her feels like a performance now. It's exhausting. The fact she used Kris's name like that, manipulative or just clueless? And then, someone dropped the bomb. A leaked excerpt, allegedly paraphrased, from Meghan's team's original pitch to Kris's office. It read, "This would be a powerful opportunity to showcase Meghan and Kris standing together, amplifying the voices of women of color and creating a shared moment of sisterhood." Sounds harmless, right? Except in these circles, it read like brand strategy disguised as activism. One person responded, "This ain't sisterhood. It's sponsorship cosplay." And from there, the gloves came off. Group chat number 4, A-listers Anonymous. This group, nicknamed the Bat Signal, includes a rotating cast of high-profile actors, directors, producers, and luxury execs. They don't speak often, but when they do, things shake. Someone in the group shared a screenshot of Kris's post-gala Instagram caption, "Surround yourself with real ones." Kiss mark. Then someone else added, "And delete the rest." No one replied, because they didn't have to. But why were the group chats so vicious this time? Let's be honest. Meghan has always attracted scrutiny. From her wedding to her Netflix specials to her baby names, she's lived under the microscope. But the difference now? They think she's losing power. And Hollywood only protects power. Once you're seen as falling, the wolves come out. The same influencers who once reposted her Archwell statements are now subtweeting her. The same stylists who used to DM her team for collabs, quietly unfollowed. The same makeup artists who begged for backstage invites to her variety photo shoots, booking Kris now instead. In a world built on perception, group chats are the new battlefield. And Meghan is losing ground. But here's the twist. While some mocked her, others were worried. One actress, known for her feminist activism and discreet friendship with Meghan, allegedly wrote in the Empowerment Queen's thread, "This is brutal. She misplayed this, yeah? But are we really just going to drag her until there's nothing left?" Another added, "She needs new advisors. Or to disappear for a while. Rebuild. Reset." There's a split now, between those who think Meghan's done, and those who think she can still be saved, if she moves carefully. And Meghan? She's watching all of it. Don't think for a second that she doesn't know what's being said. She has eyes everywhere. Screenshots. Whispers. Former friends who still feed her intel. She knows who laughed, who defended her, and who stayed silent. And that's why the next phase of this war is so dangerous. Because group chats might feel private. But nothing is truly secret when Meghan Markle decides to fight back. In fact, one member of a PR group chat allegedly received a warning from Meghan's new team. "We're aware of what's circulating. It's defamatory. We're tracking it closely. Legal language. Sharp. Clean. Controlled." The message? We see you. Because Meghan may be wounded, but she's not out. And if she's going to be talked about behind her back, she's going to make sure she owns the front page narrative. Because the next move isn't an apology. It's a counterstrike. And it's coming from inside Kris Jenner's empire. Someone close. Someone with receipts. And when they flip, the group chats won't be whispers anymore. They'll be evidence. The damage was done. The L'Oreal Gala had come and gone. Meghan Markle wasn't on the guest list, wasn't on the carpet, and certainly wasn't in any of the group photos. But somehow, she was still the most talked about person of the night. Not for what she wore, not for what she said, but for what she allegedly attempted, twice. First, the now infamous email to Kris Jenner's team requesting to attend the gala as her guest. Then, the second, more indirect attempt, this time to the event organizers themselves. Offering to support the gala's mission through visibility and alignment. And both, flat out denied. It was a double humiliation. The kind of back-to-back rejection that PR nightmares are made of. And when the memes began to surface, the group chats lit up, and even Hollywood gatekeepers began to giggle behind her back. One thing became clear. Meghan's brand was bleeding. But if there's one thing the Duchess of Sussex has mastered since leaving the royal family, it's rapid response image triage. And now, it was time to spin. Let's break down how Meghan's camp went into full-scale damage control mode, and why some insiders say it might have made things worse. Step 1. Deny? Gently. Within 24 hours of the gala, a series of quiet calls began circulating through Meghan's trusted PR intermediaries, not the big agencies. Meghan doesn't work through WME or CAA like other celebs. Instead, she has her own curated team, handpicked for discretion, speed, and alignment with the mission. The message they spread? There was never any request to attend the L'Oreal Gala. Meghan supports women's empowerment in many ways, but she had no intention of attending the event and was never involved in any capacity. It was clean, simple, denial without aggression. But here's the problem. The story had already escaped the firewall. Because the people leaking the story weren't tabloids. They were industry people, stylists, assistants, publicists, even a few D-list influencers trying to go viral by referencing the Meghan moment. So while Meghan's team was trying to shut the story down quietly, the whispers were growing louder. And worse, some insiders believed the denial wasn't just unconvincing. It was technically misleading. Because while Meghan herself may not have sent an email personally, multiple sources claimed her team had reached out to both Kris Jenner's office and L'Oreal's external events team. And in Hollywood, everyone knows your team is you. So this denial? It felt like gaslighting. Step 2. Redirect the conversation. Meghan's camp knew one thing. You don't erase a scandal. You bury it beneath a newer, shinier narrative. So within 48 hours of the L'Oreal snub headlines, Meghan's allies began feeding soft exclusives to select outlets. Think flattering coverage, low-stakes updates, and anything that could reframe Meghan as busy, focused, and above the drama. Examples? A page 6 blurb about Meghan being deep in talks to relaunch her podcast brand with a new streaming platform. A Vanity Fair source claiming Meghan had turned down multiple high-profile invitations in recent weeks to focus on her own projects. A whisper to the cut suggesting Meghan was considering returning to acting, but only if the role feels authentic. All of these reports dropped within a 72-hour window, strategically timed to push the Kris Jenner story out of the trending cycle. But again, there was a problem. The public wasn't buying it. Because unlike in 2021 or 2022, Meghan's brand no longer benefits from total audience goodwill. People wanted the inside drama. They wanted to believe Kris had shut her out. They wanted to see the once untouchable Duchess being humbled. And every time her team pushed out a sweet, vague update about jam jars or media deals, it only highlighted how far she'd fallen. Step 3. Strategic silence. After the first two tactics wobbled, denial and redirection, Meghan's advisors allegedly considered the most drastic move of all. Say nothing. No comments. No leaks. No stories. Just silence. Let the fire burn out. Let people get bored. Let Hollywood move on. And for a few days, it almost worked. Twitter moved to the next drama. TikTok influencers pivoted to new trends. But then came the photo. Step 4. The glam room photo leak. 5 days after the gala, a photo surfaced online. It wasn't official. It wasn't posted to Meghan's Instagram. It wasn't even clear who leaked it. But it sent shockwaves. The image? Meghan Markle, sitting in a glam chair. Hair done. Makeup immaculate. Wearing a glittering silver gown. Smiling. Ready for something. The caption? No caption. Just a timestamp. 7:19 p.m. The exact time the L'Oreal Gala's red carpet was in full swing. The implication? Meghan had prepared to attend. Or at least, she was styled to appear as if she had. Was it deliberate? Was it leaked by mistake? Was it Meghan's way of saying, I was ready. You didn't want me. Whatever the motive. The reaction was immediate. And brutal. Twitter. Not Meghan doing full glam, just to be ghosted, loudly crying face, loudly crying face, loudly crying face. Instagram gossip accounts. She got dressed for a party she wasn't invited to. That's pain. YouTube drama channels. Did Meghan really get snubbed mid-glam? Or was it another PR illusion? Even her defenders struggled. Because the photo was too calculated. And that's when the narrative truly turned. Because now, Meghan wasn't just someone who got rejected. She was someone who tried to spin her own rejection into a victim arc. And Hollywood hates that. Step 5. Lock down the team. After the glam photo debacle, Meghan's circle allegedly entered crisis lockdown. Staff were reminded of confidentiality clauses. Certain aides had digital access revoked. PR specialists were rotated out. The word was clear. No more leaks. No more mistakes. No more drama. Because Meghan's team understood something crucial. They were losing control of the narrative, not to the tabloids, but to Hollywood itself. And that kind of narrative collapse can cost you everything. Endorsements, alliances, even charitable partnerships. Which is why the next step wasn't outward-facing. It was internal. Step 6. The rebuild begins. In the week following the gala, several whispers began to emerge that Meghan was restructuring her entire communication strategy, that she was bringing in new people, people with experience not in the royal space, but in crisis Hollywood PR, spin doctors who specialize in reviving troubled A-listers. One rumored name? A former PR fixer who helped rehab the image of a major star after a #MeToo adjacent scandal. Another? A rebranding strategist tied to multiple celebrity comebacks, the kind of person you hire when you've burned too many bridges. The focus now? Stop the bleeding. Reposition Meghan away from desperation. Reinvent her image as independent, unbothered, and self-sufficient. Not just because she needs to, but because the clock is ticking. The next 6 months will define whether Meghan Markle returns as a power player in media or disappears into branded obscurity, an influencer with royalty in her bio but no real seat at the table. But here's the twist. While Meghan's team was scrambling to regain control, someone else was watching. Someone in Kris Jenner's orbit. Someone close enough to hear the private jokes, the email gossip, the seating list politics. And that someone is about to break because they don't agree with how it all went down. And they've kept everything. Screenshots, timelines, the real emails. The next leak won't come from Meghan's team. It'll come from inside the palace of Kris Jenner. And when it does, this war won't be about whispers anymore. It'll be about receipts. No reply. No soft decline. No thanks, but we're full. Just one word. Delete. That's what insiders say Kris Jenner did when Meghan Markle's team emailed her, requesting that Meghan join her as a guest at the L'Oréal Paris Women of Worth Gala. But why? Why was Kris so quick to shut it down? Why did she allegedly trash the request instead of offering a diplomatic excuse or extending a lifeline to one of the most talked about women on the planet? To answer that, we have to peel back the veneer of reality TV glam and royal titles. We have to understand who Kris Jenner really is, and why a woman like Meghan is the exact kind of risk Kris doesn't just avoid, but neutralizes. This wasn't about pettiness. This wasn't jealousy. It was strategy. Because when Kris Jenner says absolutely not, it means one thing. You're a threat to the brand. Let's dig into the real reasons behind that one-syllable snub. Reason number 1. Meghan doesn't play by the same rules, and that's the problem. Kris Jenner built a billion-dollar empire by mastering control. Control of optics, of headlines, of narratives. Every member of her family is a carefully crafted brand, complete with PR guidelines, media handlers, and contractual expectations down to the last word. In Kris's world, nothing is accidental. But Meghan? She's the queen of unpredictability. One moment, she's launching a jam line. The next, she's giving a bombshell interview about racism in the royal family. Then she's hosting a podcast, then suing tabloids, then ghosting the press. From Kris's perspective, Meghan is a wild card. Too big to ignore, but too dangerous to stand beside. A woman like that can't be on your arm at a major gala without the risk that she'll hijack the entire moment with a look, a comment, or worse, a leak. And Kris? She doesn't gamble with public perception. She calculates it, manages it, owns it. Reason number 2, the optics were all wrong. Let's talk about optics. Kris's favorite currency. The L'Oréal Women of Worth Gala wasn't just about glamour. It was a celebration of women doing real, tangible work in their communities. The honorees were activists, scientists, philanthropists, survivors. And Meghan? To many in the industry, she's become optics without substance. Someone who talks about empowerment, but hasn't delivered consistent, measurable results in years. Yes, she's a former duchess. Yes, she founded Archewell. Yes, she's spoken about mental health and race and feminism. But from Kris's lens, the Meghan brand is now more about image control than actual impact. And the risk? If Meghan shows up, it could look like Kris is giving her a platform she didn't earn. Worse, Kris herself could be accused of clout chasing, even though she is the one in control. The worst sin in Kris Jenner's world? Looking desperate by association. Reason number 3. Kris doesn't like to be used. The Kardashians are many things. Polarizing, relentless, fame-obsessed. But they're not naive. They know when someone's trying to ride their wave. And to Kris, Meghan's email looked a lot like a strategic piggyback attempt. Can I sit next to you? Move cloaked in empowerment language and empty flattery. Kris saw right through it. She didn't see a genuine desire to support the event or the women being honored. She saw leverage seeking. A woman with a crumbling public narrative trying to reclaim legitimacy by standing next to the queen of media control. And Kris? She doesn't like being used. She uses others. For business. For visibility. For storyline elevation. But she never lets someone else control the headline. Especially not someone with a track record of doing exactly that to monarchs, producers, and executives alike. Reason number 4. Meghan brings drama, and Kris avoids external chaos. Kris Jenner is the master of internal drama. She manufactures it, packages it, and sells it on Hulu every week. But external chaos? From outside players? That's a threat to the machine. And Meghan? She is a magnet for external drama. Every event she attends gets dissected. Every expression becomes a headline. Every outfit is scrutinized. Every handshake speculated upon. Kris doesn't want to share a red carpet with someone who might hijack the narrative unintentionally, or worse, intentionally. She doesn't want photographers fighting over Meghan instead of focusing on the honorees. She doesn't want headlines like, Meghan steals spotlight from Kris Jenner at L'Oreal Gala. Because even if Kris were still the star, the mere presence of Meghan would overshadow the entire night. And Kris doesn't share power. She delegates it, curates it, but never gives it away. Reason number 5, the family said no. Behind Kris Jenner is not just a businesswoman, but a brand dynasty. And that brand has internal politics. Multiple sources have hinted that Kris may have checked in with her daughters, especially Kim and Khloe, before making a final decision on the Meghan situation. Their verdict? Hard pass. Why? Because the Kardashian-Jenner sisters understand vibe. And Meghan has lost hers. She's not trending for empowerment. She's trending for snubs, cancellations, awkward red carpets, and business flops. Bringing her into the Kardashian circle now would be like inviting a walking controversy into their curated empire.